Hello, everyone. I wanted to take a few minutes and have a quick cast here and talk about intuition and Reiki. So many people don't necessarily put the two together, but I found through experience that intuition is really, really enhanced by working deeply and consistently and in the flow of the Reiki energy, the divine source energy. It really can enhance your intuitive abilities. It's not something that I learned Reiki so that I could enhance my intuitive abilities or, work on mediumship or my connection with tarot and oracle cards or pendulum work. That's not why I took Reiki to start. I was actually into more divination prior to ever journeying into the healing realm. But what I found soon on, after I believe my first attunement, I really started noticing things kick up a notch, if you will, unexpectedly. And the full transparency here, the instructor, the teacher that I had, did not talk about intuition, magic, or anything like that in the Reiki courses. It was strictly about kind of the Eastern medicine practices and working with the organs and sending energy and clearing out blockages and things like that. We did not talk about channeling in guides, past loved ones, angels, any of that stuff, sensing, entities, if you will, darker energies, or just anything going on there. We did not talk about that at all. We did kind of cover the chakras a little bit, but it was made known that that was not part of traditional Reiki. And in fact, it isn't. And when I teach Reiki, as part of the Reiki 1 course, we have discussion period and things like that. We go on Q&As and things like that, experiential exercises. But I do make it known that the chakra system is not part of traditional Reiki. Traditional Reiki works more, again, on the organs and things like that. So in my first Reiki class or attunement level, we did talk a little bit about chakras and as well in the second and third, but that was made known that it was not part of the traditional, but it was something they wanted to pass along. So I, of course, took it a step further, since I am so intrinsically involved in Western magic and working with the spirit realm and the angelic realms. It was only natural to incorporate that into the type of Reiki that I teach. Now it's very interesting. And once you get into a Reiki level 1 class, we kind of talk about this a little bit more. I tell you, okay, this is traditional Reiki. And as long as you're okay with it, I have all of these other things to talk to you about and hopefully teach you how to do as well. I find, and this is my perspective, that facilitating a Reiki session that incorporates the intuitive and the clairs and that psychic aspect to it is a much more encompassing session, and it can be a much more powerful session depending upon where blockages are, why they're there, and who has come to talk to you about those blockages and or something else going on in your life. It almost always ties back to whatever's imbalanced here, at least in my sessions, because that is something I set up the session to do. I set it up so that the highest and best for both myself and the client takes place that day. And I invited both my guides, or my dream team, as I call them. I invite those in as well as the clients, and I say them by name. I'm very particular about that because in the, psychic realm, if you will, the other side, you can call it anything you want. I think you attune better to the energies, and any energies that may be waiting to talk to them or provide assistance in healing. If you, just like in mediumship, calling the names and kind of tapping into that energy field. But either way, I have an entire thing that I kind of say before a client gets there. And I set the tone of the room. I bless the room, escort anything out that's not meant to be there, and not for the highest and best of both of us involved. And I'm not sure if all practitioners involve themselves in the prayers, but I do teach to do that. And I find it very important because I want the protection for myself and the healing for myself as well as the other. When you have some experience with Reiki, you find out, and this is not necessarily in a book anywhere that you read when you're learning about Reiki, but you find out that many, many, many sessions heal you as well on some level. Whether it's privately and you don't divulge that stuff to the client at the time, it depends if it's appropriate and how well you know them, and if it takes away or detracts or adds to their session. But many, many times you're receiving a healing as well. And that's a beautiful, beautiful bonus, I think, of Reiki. You know, in the magical community, sometimes Reiki's not necessarily, in my perspective and what I've seen, not necessarily taken so seriously. But I absolutely am that girl that will tell you, I would not be at the level of an intuitive ability in channeling and mediumship and, you know, card reading and all of that stuff, grabbing messages in general, the overall blanket term there. I would not be at the level had it not been for Reiki and the attunements and the consistently being in the energy, channeling and allowing it to become fully a part of my energy. So that, and I put in air quotes, magic. Magic isn't something I sit down and do. It's a part of me now. It wasn't always that way. You know, prior to this and this energy work and really deep diving into the energy realm, it was a separate thing. You know, I was going to do magic that night, or some people were going to come over. We're going to get in a circle. We're going to do some things, work with some crystals, see what happens, journal it, make the magic happen. But it was, you know, and we still do that, but it was more of an event at the time, instead of just kind of flowing freely like the tides in and out of the energy. And, you know, some ask, does that cause you to be more tired, always being in the energy? And I say, my answer to that is, it depends on what energy. If I was constantly in a mediumship energy, tapping in on that level, I'd get pretty tired. If I was constantly in a healing mode, in that sort of energy of sending healing and channeling through, you know, all day long, I'm going to get tired. Yeah, I am. But kind of just being in a receiving mode all day long, connected to spirit, that doesn't tire me out, especially with all the energy management practices that I do daily. And many, many times before I go to bed at night, I'll pop headphones on, or in some way, shape, or form, listen to, at the very least, a brief 10-minute meditation. I really prefer 20 minutes or more. And I don't know if we'll get into why today, but if not, there'll be another podcast as to why that's my magic marker, 20 minutes. But getting into that in a restorative mode. And there are many ways to do it. There are a million different meditations out there that you can do, but some way. And for my Reiki students, of course, I encourage them to do their self-Reiki during that period, and keep working with the energy flowing through. And at least when you take Reiki with me, I have learned that there are other ways that people have taught some Reiki. I kind of jokingly call it drive-through Reiki, where it's just like this weekend smash bang thing and you're done and goodbye. And, you know, sometimes they double up level 1, 2, and 3, or 1 and 2 all in the same weekend, which I think is let me put it this way. I would never, ever, ever teach it that way. My students, we go slow, we go the traditional, more traditional way. I'm not going to slam you with a bunch of attunements in a weekend and say, good luck, you're vibrating high, because that's not how it works. It really isn't. To truly be able to connect with the energy and make some magic happen, if you will, you need to have time to integrate your energy, to integrate the attunement that you've received, and understand how that's going to work with your physical body until your energy is kind of fully in there. Because you're given the attunement, but depending on what level you're at, say you've never done any energy work at all, and you come in to the Reiki 1 class and we go through that, there may be a bit of a bump there, as I call it. And some people call it the healing crisis, or a Reiki flu or something. It's where your physical body is so far from where you've been attuned to. You need to start working on the vibration there. A lot of water intake, clean up your food for a little bit, practice yourself Reiki every day, at least once a day, to continue the flow. And then your body will adjust and your vibrate and fully accept the attunement in there. Now there's some people that have been working with energy work of different types for years. So they come into Reiki 1 and it's no big deal. Zoom and they're gone. But I can only imagine for those drive-through Reiki attunement classes, if they are just slamming you with attunements real fast and not allowing that time your body needs to start sensing what your energy feels like now. Because with Reiki attunements, if some of you don't know, it's permanently opening up your energy field to channel more energy in than the average Joe, right? So you're permanently opening more and channeling more 24/7 after that. So imagine taking it up level 1, level 2. I've even heard of a level 3 on a 3-day workshop. So going from here to 100% on all the time, fire hose energy in here, what it's going to do to you. It's not going to be comfortable. I've heard feedback from students that have signed up for my Reiki courses, and we had a little intro call, and they said, well, I have a certificate, but I didn't really learn anything from this other course. It was a weekend quick course. And, one of the girls even said that she ended up getting physically nauseous for the rest of the weekend because her energy, her vibration, it was not at all ready to receive all of those attunements. And, my perspective, I think it's a little irresponsible. I'm not trying to be judgy or anything, but, energy work is a serious thing. Some people are like, oh, I got their certificate online and, now I'm all this and that, but they don't actually practice it. They don't really take it seriously, and some of my students have kind of joked about the Miyagi thing, but I'm serious, it's a lifestyle change if you really, truly want to embrace it in all that it has to offer you. I mean, it completely changed my life, and I was not seeking healing as a profession or even a hobby. It landed in my lap, so to speak. Again, I was really interested in party reading and divination and channeling messages and all of that stuff. Healing landed in my lap. And it first started with angel healing, which is a certification that I'm working on. Hopefully, this first quarter of the year, I'll have that up on the website. And then it was into more shamanic healing and some techniques there, and incorporating that with the angelic healing. And then it was an opportunity to move forward with the Reiki. And I said, what the heck? I laugh at it now because it's like everything now. It touches all parts of my life. But at the time I was like, well, what the heck? That's fine. I'll give it a try. We'll see what this is all about. Who knew? They knew, right? I didn't know. They knew what was going on. It's funny. They have a path for you. And it's rarely anything that you dreamed it would be. It's crazy. So with that said, I still do all of the divination, but I also do the healing as well. And I find keeping your energy clear, clearing your chakras, clearing, making sure the meridians are running like a nice river in your system, and resetting and checking your energy really allows such an expansive ability to channel different messages from different beings. Again, this is something that happened. It started just happening. It wasn't anything that I was taught. I was taught very little, actually, in my attunement courses. It was experiential. It was a lot of focus on the attunements. And then I spent, the next year researching, collecting data, because, my background's more analytical and computer networking administration. So of course I have folders on the computer, collected charts and things like that, because I was going to find out everything there was involved in this, because it felt amazing and I wasn't exactly sure how to use it. I kind of was, but still I had a million questions, because I was that girl with, okay, well, if you feel this, how about this and that, this, and how will I always know it's this? And, and by the way, there's no definites or absolutes or anything like that. It really is an intuitive process. So letting go of that and trusting and building a very good relationship with your dream team. And if you don't have one, angels is the way to go. They are there and ready to work with you. So you can even just pick Michael and Raphael. Raphael's the healing angel, Michael's protection. Those two alone can help you with your Reiki. But opening up, because we aren't meant to know everything in a Reiki session. Our job, as I say, and when I go down my little hit list of need to knows, in Reiki 1, it's not our job to, for lack of a better word, play God or be God or absolutes or anything like that. Our job is to be the best conduit to facilitate the divine energy, to bring that through. So keeping yourself in a great state so that you can really channel it through for the client or student, if they're learning as well. That's your job, not to absolutely fix anything. And that's also something that some folks, some laymen kind of get confused, and they think, well, why didn't you fix that broken bone? You're a healer. It makes me crazy. We channel the energy, which activates, yes, divine healing and healing from other sources and spiritual stuff, but also works with the body and helps it have what it needs, like the energy vitamins, if you will, to start the healing process, be it with the cells, or sometimes we find out it's not a physical, though it may create some sort of physical sensation or uncomfortable feeling. It's not necessarily a physical illness, issue, challenge, however you want to put it. Sometimes it comes from the emotional realm, but it's starting to manifest on the physical level. So again, some talking. I also suggest when you're learning Reiki to also get into a wee bit of psychology, counseling, trauma-informed counseling. NLP is a big favorite of mine. Even cognitive behavioral theory, there's some classes, some things you can learn, ways to kind of reframe, my favorite word, because you can go in and clear their chakras and they're going to feel really super relaxed and good for the moment. But when they walk out the door, real life is going to hit them, right? So what I do, and it's very likely because I'm also a spiritual life coach, and we have soul coaching sessions as well, where we walk through integrating the magical and the mundane, so to speak, your spiritual with your practical life, and how you can, kind of melt them together to more authentically follow your path. But with that said, having some of these additional techniques and some knowledge to be able to speak to the client or student, and depending on where they're at, say it's a heart chakra thing or a solar plexus thing, okay, they gotta, it's off. say the solar plexus is out, or wonky as I call it, because that's another level that things aren't always just open or shut. There's a wonky, there's a gray area there. But again, depending on the level you're at with your Reiki, you may not understand that. You may just know something feels off. And that's all you really need to do in that realm, is sense that it's off and send the light through and rebalance that energy center. That's technically all your job is in the session. However, my sessions aren't like that. We do that, but we're also going to talk about why it's imbalanced, and hopefully come together with some tips, techniques, homework, as I like to call it, that you take with you when you step outside the door, right? Because, okay, here we go back to, I've cleared this all out. You walk out the door and then life hits you. And then if you don't fully understand why things were off, or at least have some idea where to start, then the likelihood of them going right back out of place is pretty high. And you feeling frustrated because you've just went through a session, you felt really great, and now you're slapped right back in the face with this problem. So having another form of modality that deals with the counseling portion and identifying the psychological and emotional aspects of these chakras and helping them in a graceful way. You have to be very, very careful of these things. My classes are a little weird. And you want to have the right words for this, and you don't want to push a client too far. And sometimes they're very private. So you may hit on something and say, does this resonate with you? And for me, all they have to do is say yes or no. And when they say yes, you can see it in their eyes. They know what it is, and maybe they're not ready to talk about it, but they know what you're pointing to. And at that point, I tell them, I don't need to know the specifics, but the fact you know what this is what's important. And the fact that me, a perfect stranger, so to speak, can see this in your energy means it's probably time you got to do some things. You got to take it seriously, depending on what it is. You do either way, but not necessarily saying you weren't taking it seriously, but you may have to take some steps to correct and or adjust your life to stop this imbalance. Because if you don't, then it starts landing in the physical level. So, this energetic imbalance starts manifesting to a new level and a new layer, which is the more physical layer. And then you end up with, ulcers, stomach pains, GERD, things like that from undealt with situations and emotions and things. So again, solar plexus is, about trusting your gut. It's a confidence area, decision making, and all that. And that's a popular place. It's out. That the heart chakra is really popular, unfortunately, in today's society. So, and it's not to be ashamed of if any of this comes up in a session. Everyone has something to work on. And, if it's being called up in the session, at least with me, divinely, they say it's time. It's time to work on it. So there's that. And I say divine quite a bit because, again, I do not separate this energy work from the intuitive work. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, I embrace it. I open it up to it. I say certain prayers to start and blessings, if you will, to welcome that stuff in, because they can see so much more than just I can see and I can sense. I can sense a fair bit. I've been doing this for a minute, and I can check some stuff out here, but the information they give me through this connection, this intuitive connection, enhanced by the Reiki channeling, it's amazing. And, over the past year, I've gone from little scrap papers and writing things down as it's coming through and I'm working, to now full on flip books, like Tyler Henry or something. And I have to, I'm in the Reiki session, and then something channels through. Maybe it's a past loved one. Maybe it's, I also hear clairaudiently and claircognitely, is that a word? With claircognizance, basically the knowing and the hearing is the clairaudience. I'll get an absolute sentence from the guides. And it's said in a way that I even put an exclamation point when I'm writing it down, because they're very serious about it. It could be something like, you need more vitamin C. And in the beginning, I thought, oh my gosh, this is weird. I'm going to have to tell them that. They're going to think I'm just a weirdo, right? But as I know, with all things magical like that, you're just delivering the mail. You don't have to understand the mail. Sometimes you do, and that's great, especially if you're doing this all the time for years. You start to see the patterns here and how your dream team connects with you and the signs and symbols they give you, so you know exactly kind of what's going on there. But either way, back to the vitamin C. So I finally was like, well, it sounds weird, but they were very, very forward in the fact that you need vitamin C. And I remember the client at the time was like, oh, I just bought a bottle of vitamin C. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Thank you guys for that confirmation again. So it's even good for the reader, if you're doing cards or channeling or mediumship, as well as the healer, and or if you're both like I am, to just say it. Even if it sounds weird in your head, you just never know what's going on in their life. And I'm going to venture to say 99% of the time that I've said things, it has come back and connected in some way, shape, or form, whether it was just confirmation that I was indeed tapped into their energy and it was an experience, or whether it was something that completely correlated with something they were going through emotionally or physically. I had a client the other day that there was a blockage in the lower leg, and they had said that they had a lot of pain in that leg while they were under, as I was clearing that. So it was a neat thing there. And I'm like, well, this may seem weird, but there was a blockage there. Do you have anything going on there? And they were like, wow, so there's that. Just say it. You're going to get intuitive stuff. Just say it. So I kind of went way off of what I was going to, but you know what? Divinely guided, right? So yeah, for many of you may not have known that intuition was so connected to Reiki healing and utilizing the Reiki energy. It absolutely is. And again, while it is not traditionally taught that way, it is a way that I teach it. I also bring in the angels for angel Reiki as well. Unless you specifically would rather not work with the angels, we'll go, just with your guides and spirit team. We could do that too. But if you have no objection, I always like to bring in the angels to clear and set your space, to teach you how to clear and set your space. You may have a method that you use already. And if you don't, and you're just out there doing magic and, just pulling out cards and not setting up beforehand or checking your energy or doing anything like that, or just hopping into try to do a healing without a formal kind of clearing of space, connecting of energy, then I dare to say you are only partially connecting to the potential. It may seem like you're already connecting. Oh, I don't need that, And I've heard people say, well, I don't need meditation to connect into my guides. Well, okay. You don't. You can get some information, but imagine what level of information you could get if you could shift into these alpha states easily. And that is a trained talent, if you will. It just doesn't happen overnight. It happens through deep meditations, experiencing, at least with me. I don't know how anyone else teaches it, but I can guarantee you, if you work one-on-one with me, you're going to be able to receive information that you never thought you'd be able to receive through these methods that I know absolutely 13 years now. I've been using these things and with myself and with clients. And I can tell you myself, it blows my mind how far it's gotten me. And it's such a foundational thing. And there are many practitioners that would argue till the day is done with me on this. But there's also a whole lot of science out there. And when we get into, quantum healing and quantum physics and aligning energies and the science meeting the spiritual, you soon see, big bunch of S's there, you soon see how it is absolutely connected, and that you can reach, I want to say sections of your awareness that you could not reach without going deeply and getting into that other state. Your ego mind just won't let you. But yeah, can you sit down and pull some cards and they're probably going to be pretty right? Probably. If you've done this a bit and you know how to do the, read the cards, but can you get the deeper knowing of what's going on and additional information that supports that card pull? Not sure you will. And yes, quote me on it, whatever you'd like. I'm going to have some people that are arguing with me out there. But if you try this, and what's the hurt, right? I know when I first started and I did not have a meditation practice and I did not allow myself to fully shift into an altered state, I could pull cards and then I could read the book and it was pretty accurate to the person, that I was reading to. Friend, at the time it was friends, I was just learning. And I was like, oh, look, I can do this. And they're like, yeah, that was pretty accurate. That is a whole different experience than what goes on now. No book. I have learned, hold on, let me get a sip here. Need a little coffee every so often. So no book anymore. B, I have learned through developing my intuition and my clairs, how to, yes, see the card and have my own relationship with that card in a more full understanding or a deeper understanding that the guides gave me that card as part of a language. It's not all about the card. That's what, depending on the deck that I choose, excuse me, that's what they have to work with. There's one deck that a fairy deck that I use, and the pregnancy card comes out a lot because that's the only card that's in there that can represent the birthing of something. Excuse me, drink here. So 99 times out of 100, it's about the birthing of something, not necessarily a real human child. It's generally about birthing an idea, a business idea, or something like that. So there's a lot that goes in intuition and Reiki, and this is just really a part one. I think we're going to continue on with this.